Hi. Well, I am Liz Schmidt, and today we have partnered with the Brand Lab IO. And Ari, we've been talking since what, January, February, probably
Yeah.
even earlier than that, to bring an event to Chicago. But then all of the things occurred around COVID-19, and we decided to take this event virtual, just like so many events out there. But this one's unique because we have an amazing panel today. Eli, Matthew, and Elise and Ari, who is our moderator today. And we think we got something really interesting here. And when we were talking about this topic before even the whole COVID-19 happened, this was the topic we chose. So how interesting is it that, now we are remote with our teams, that collaborative design is such a relative conversation right now. So I'm really excited about this. So if you are going to tweet or post or say anything on your social platforms, feel free to tag at Adobe XD or hashtag Adobe XD, because my team loves to support the community in this way. We love to sponsor future events as well if you have any ideas. But tell us what you like, and the community really, when they share, the more they share, the more we know kind of how to engage with you guys. All right. So quick news, XD just announced on our blog that we are enabling remote work globally for designers and their teams. So the unlimited version of XD is free right now for a limited amount of time. But if you have XD and you have like the starter version of the free version, I know it was very limited before, but so there's some new stuff. And if you are looking for ways to take advantage of XD, specifically around collaboration, Elise, she's going to be doing a kind of like a demo workshop type of thing tomorrow. She can tell you more about it, but it says remote collaboration tips with XD. I will pop this link into the chat pod, or I will follow up via email to everyone after the event. But this is a really great kind of lunchtime session. It'll be 1 p.m. for me, but for people in Chicago, it'll be about noon. And in the West Coast, I believe at 10 a.m. Correct, I believe. So we'll share more about this afterwards. And if you want to know more events like this one, and then of course, when we kind of come out of quarantine, we will be sponsoring and partnering with other groups to create more events. So just go into letsxd.com and look up under resources and events and see what's coming up either in your city or online. Okay, great. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Yay, Liz, done. And I'm gonna hand it over to my pal here, Ari, and I will be going mute for a little while. So I will see you at the end for prizes and giveaways.
The fun stuff, right? All right. Thank you, Liz. Honestly, thank you so much for Liz and the team at Adobe XD for helping us figuring all things out around bringing this to all of you virtually. I really talk with like Matthew, Elise, and Eli for this particular topic. Now, before I actually introduce everyone from our speaker list and have them present their presentation around this collaborative design topic, I also would love to maybe just kind of share a little bit about myself and the brandlab.io a little bit. So my name is Ari Shrzak. I am the co-founder and chief creative officer at Scalafia. We are a digital brand consultancy out of Chicago, where we oftentimes help women tech founders with their branding, making sure that we deliver no-brainer user experience and web solutions that support their business. The brandlab.io is actually our education platform. And for those who know me and my company here in Chicagoland area, you know how much we love our community and helping our community with a lot of different resources throughout events and things like that. So the brandlab.io is actually our platform where we really want it to be your source for digital learning and expert knowledge on sharing the branding, the marketing, and technology information for our community. Now, for this particular topic, I honestly feel it could not come in the top and perfect moment, because I feel like people already know a little bit more about remote culture, right? Remote collaboration, remote team. But I feel like after all of these things are happening right now with the COVID-19, people finally have a higher appreciation about being remote. It's not as easy as people think, right? But I think that's the beauty of it. We can learn now from amazing people like Matthew, like Elise, and Eli, in understanding really what does that even really look like for a bigger team, like a design team, and what is that actually going to look like for freelancers. So if you are like a freelancer in the design industry, or maybe you're actually part of a bigger team, you'll learn a little bit more about like how collaborative really works for you and how you can implement that for your team or even in your process as a freelancer. Now, I'm actually going to hand it off to the first speaker that I would like to choose, Eli. So Eli, do you want to just like kick it off and let everyone know who you are, your background a little bit, and then kick it off with your presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, everyone. How's it going? I'm Eli Gold Ferrer. Gold is from my previous graffiti background and just kept that, and kind of reminds me every day of what my background and what brought me to the community of creative folks. I'm currently the head of enterprise UX and digital product design over at Wabtec. Wabtec is formerly known as a GE Transportation. And up until recently, we weren't fully remote. We were distributed. The team here in Atlanta, we had a team in Chicago. Hey, Chicago folks. We had LA, India, and other parts of Europe, and also across the US. And really, from us, I guess before my story, I have no presentation, just you can hear me talk, sorry. I do that a lot. Before this, really establishing our culture, the remote inclusion, and also the fundamentals around it. Again, it's extra effort to establish, as I already just mentioned, the fundamentals of what it takes to extremely important for your organization to understand the practices of being fully remote. Because again, when we were in close contact with each other in the offices, it was a whole lot easier when you had an idea and you just stood up and started talking. So, again, like our practices fundamentals are just really important for us right now, and getting a lot of those things like fluid with each other. So it's a lot of like, what I like to say, it's like becoming the disc jockey, repeating yourself every hour on the hour, and just iterating on that, and helping people understand what that new culture is. So story, right? You wanted me to go with that? All right. So, I mean, honestly, I think in today's time, it's a really great opportunity. Some really crazy times that we're living in today. Day by day, we hear new things. And again, the world doesn't really pause. We're just facing new ways of doing things, right? And that means collaborating with each other in just different ways, obstacles. I mean, if all of us are creatives, we've always been challenged with a crazy obstacle, and we always somehow come up with an awesome solution. So, another, just ways of sparking up creativity. One example for that, for myself and my team, we started doing and keeping our old ways before our lives pretty much changed, is learn how to understand each other more. That beginning again to whom our audience, again, remember who our audience is day to day. So again, like becoming just really good storytellers and just valuing the team's values and cultures within the organization. Just becoming that great storyteller from one point to the other, and really opening up that virtual, opportunity to describe ourselves, right? One example that we started doing just with our UX team in whole, again, heads up and awesome work from my team, just starting out virtual happy hours. Again, you don't have to drink or do anything like that, just attend, play awesome games. It's just another way to like really share that personal vibe with each other. Using virtual tools, and also finding an opportunity to educate others with virtual tools, because again, that's a really big thing nowadays. Again, also creating opportunities to create virtual support groups. I mean, it's something new because again, it's like how we mentioned, if you're in like your day-to-day, just raised your hand and started talking to folks. But now just opportunities where like, it's like, hey, instead of just waiting for your all hands, let's get together and like, just framework something together in a small group if need be. Just raise your hand. Also something that we kind of started before we were doing before this whole thing started really was share some shiz. We found it especially today where everyone's just at home, we found this pretty unique, especially since the fact it's like, what's coming out and like, hey, what people are trying to do. Share some shiz basically, sorry, I forgot to mention what it is. before you present anything in all hands, you kind of share anything that you're thinking about. It really opens up the room and creates an emotional and cultural platform for everyone to just really vibe, basically. And then also kind of to wrap up my little story, because I don't have a story every day. For me, it's kind of like new things and exploring. Again, just remembering those things that really bring us together, be it a meeting or not being in a meeting. And I mentioned a few virtual rooms, etc. But just allowing ourselves to always look back at our process and principles, truly providing empathy and simplicity within just involving ourselves and just being able to talk to each other, really celebrate some of our achievements. It doesn't matter if they're like large or small, just really an opportunity for folks to like be mentioned, especially since we're not face to face, just bringing those folks up. And I think from a story perspective, I just living with the team and just honestly just trying to be successful and collaborate as much as we can and just find new ways to collaborate.
Thank you, Eli. After everyone present, by the way, guys, I will be asking a couple of questions that I already have prepared for our panelist speaker. So if you have any questions already, hold them. But if you can actually type them out on the chat, that would be perfect. And I can kind of pull them out as we go. And once Elise and Matthew finish with their presentation, we'll ask them those questions. Cool? All right, Elise, your turn next.
Yeah, I do have a presentation, so I'm going to share that. Let me know if you can see it.
Zoom out a little bit because I think you're like blown up.
Can you see my screen?
We saw it before. I think you moved it out.
How about, let's do it again. Can you see it now?
We can see it, just gotta minimize it.
Oh.
Oh, that's okay. She's in full view. Yeah. That's why. No, you're okay. Let me see. Exit full view. Okay. You're good.
I'm good? Okay.
Go ahead.
You can all say in big gold letters, hi, I'm Elise. Hi, I'm Elise, and I am a freelance UX designer. I am currently working with Los Angeles Family Housing. I'm working on an app for social workers to help get more people off the streets and into shared housing. So that's what I'm doing for my freelance work. But on top of that, as Liz mentioned, I also teach. I teach with XD. Tomorrow, please check out the event, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm doing a 1-hour lunch and learn, showing you some of the great stuff that XD has to offer. I'm also actually going to be teaching on Monday and Tuesday as well on Adobe Live, teaching live for 2 hours, Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to be showing how to utilize UI kits to make really quick designs very quickly. So check that out. On top of that, I also create content. I have this image of me going, that was one of my first videos I did on my computer, webcamming and just having fun, talking so much smack about a bad user experience. And I was like super excited about it. But now reflecting back on the video, I'm like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. To now where I'm at, I have Instagram, I do microblogs and blogs. And I also create video content. It's got a little bit more professional slightly, as you can see. And so what I wanted to talk about is how I view collaboration right now and some of the benefits of sort of what's happening right now and how we can see those benefits for collaboration. And when I think about it, it's how can we collaborate and connect stakeholders and users? Because typically, I've already done most of my user testing virtually, but there's always been challenges with getting, let's say, 50-year-old women to get on a Zoom call with me. But now more and more people are so used to Zoom or Google Hangouts than ever, and more people are home and they're able to give you feedback and they want stuff to do. So it's much easier to reach out to people and get feedback. So that's a really positive win for us designers. What I'll say is typically my process for getting user insights is I will interview 5 to 7 individuals, let's say for a project. I'll take all of that information and I'll make I'll have hour-long interviews with them that are recorded, and I have links to those recordings. And then I take all that information and I have insights from that, and I create like a little report, like a fancy little short report that I'll actually share with stakeholders. And so then I'll share that with stakeholders, and it all goes pretty well most of the time. But sometimes it doesn't go so well. And when I've noticed this happen is when the user insights and the user testing, the results from it is not just about the designs itself, and it could be more about the product. It could be more about pricing structure or value proposition. And so when I've seen that happen, I can see some more resistance, especially as a freelancer who's just starting onto the client, being like, hey, from our test results, we found that your product sucks. So that can be pretty challenging. So instead of doing that, I try to involve them in the user testing as much as possible, especially right now, again, with this climate. Stakeholders are more apt to maybe, hey, I'll drop in on your testing, sure, for 30 minutes. Okay, great. So my suggestion would be invite others to interviews, not just stakeholders, maybe product owners, developers. Tell your small team, hey, who can drop in? They don't have to have their video or anything. They can just watch along. It's much better than sending them a recording to an hour-long video if they're live. The other suggestion that I have is sometimes they're so like, I ain't got time for that. So what I've done is I've created short videos. I've done 2-minute videos with like 30 seconds from each user, as far as like getting the juicy bits of information that I think is really important from them. This is very much important because then it's not just coming from me and my report with like, oh, here are the 5 users and here are some of the insights and here are some of the quotes. When people see faces and they can hear voices and hear pain, it makes a whole different experience. So I suggest getting on your iMovie and making a short clip. It's so easy. I just showed someone yesterday how to edit something on iMovie, and she's like, oh my gosh, it took me 5 minutes. So simple and easy. And the other thing is I found that I have to be very, very positive. When I'm showing something or about to show a video, I'm like, hey, we found this insight and this is gold. This is why I have gold here. This is a gold mine of information. We found that all these opportunities to potentially improve the product. And I'll always have some ideas or some solutions that are half-baked that I will say, hey, we can talk about this and brainstorm if you'd like to start having positive conversations about the insights that we gathered. And again, straight from the horse's mouth, straight from the users, and not from me just showing a simple report. So that's sort of my take on this, what's happening right now, and how I'm thinking about how we can really capitalize on this and collaborate with one another, with other team members, and connect team members with users. So thanks for listening.
Awesome, Elisa, thank you. All right, Matt, you ready?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let me share my screen here. Okay, and then can you see my screen here? Oh, full screen?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, I'm Matthew Encina. I've been a creative professional now for over 15 years, working in the design and advertising space. And in the past few years, I've been focused a lot more on content and education, where I'm a regular contributor now at The Future. I'm the Chief Content Officer there. And we teach people, creative people like you, how to value themselves so they can be valuable to others. So today I want to talk about effective collaboration. And for me, it's less about the tools, because even before all this COVID stuff, you would still be collaborating with people. These would be people in the room, people in front of you. And to me, the biggest thing that is the key to effective collaboration is beginning with effective communication. And I think we all go to school and we learn all the the hard skills. We all take English class, but we never really learn how to communicate. And I think that's something that we just learn as we grow up, as we become adults, and as we enter in relationships, both professional and business. So becoming an effective communicator is so powerful, I think, in any stage of your career, regardless if we're in a virtual state or in a physical space. So in an ideal world, this is how it would be. You would have your stakeholders or your collaborators or your teammates, and you guys would all be looking at the project the same way from beginning to end. There's no friction. The project just happens and on schedule, on budget, everyone is aligned. But, you know, that's not how things work. You know, in the real world, everybody has their own opinion, and we're all looking at the project from different angles, from different perspectives. And I don't think that that's wrong, actually, because I feel like the tension between all the different voices in the room is where you produce the great work. When you have smart people in the room and they're all challenging and pulling and pushing from different angles, that's where the best work comes out. And the reason why we all have different opinions simply is this, is that we all experience the world in very different ways. Just like right now with the COVID outbreak right now, for me as an introvert, I love this period right now. I'm flourishing. I get to be locked up in my room and all I get to do is work all day, and I love it, absolutely love it. But that's my experience. Other people are experiencing the same exact events that I am, but they're having a really hard time. Some people are losing their jobs and are concerned for people that they're losing or are affected by the virus. And the thing is, that's our truth. That's how we see the world. And if you go back to a project, it's the same thing. Every person in that room has their own worldview and the thing that they care about for that project. And the thing is, no one is wrong in that situation. Actually, everyone is right. We live in a world where no one is wrong and everyone is right. Everybody has a right to their own truth and the stories they tell themselves, the narratives of how they make sense of this world and of a project. So the big question is how do you collaborate with people who hold different viewpoints than yourself? How do you facilitate the room and how do you work with other people that might be looking at things at different angles and might have a difference of opinion? So I think there's 4 key points when you're thinking about effective collaboration. First thing is worldview. These are just our internal values and narratives. These are how we make sense of the world. These are our beliefs of really what we hold near and dear to ourselves. These are the things that we care about. The next concept is framing. This is the perception, how we internalize the raw information that is being presented to us. Framing helps give it context. The next thing is communication. This is the language that we speak, the jargon that we use in the room. I know as designers, all of us have a lot of jargon that our parents won't understand or common folk won't understand. So we use different language in different settings. And the last key thing is expectations. And I believe all relationships are built or broken based off of how well you can meet, exceed, or fail to meet expectations. This is how we build trust. So when you're collaborating, when you're working with other people with different worldviews, first thing you got to do is understand that worldview and realize that everybody is just and right in their beliefs. That's empathy. Next thing is once you understand those people, you have to change the way you frame the project, problem, your idea for them. You also have to change how you communicate towards them because you have to use words that they can hear, that they can understand. Otherwise, you're just talking jargon and it's not going to mean anything to them. And the last thing you have to do is set clear expectations so everybody knows what to expect when. So I want to paint a very clear picture of this, of what this might look like. So if you are working with your internal team or even an external client, you might have 2 different personas here. And these are totally generalized and exaggerated for the sake of understanding this. So how would you collaborate with a creative director versus CFO, the chief financial officer? So let's talk about the worldview. So the worldview of a creative director, somebody like me, might be, my creative work defines me. Does it look beautiful? Will this win awards? Versus the CFO in the room might care, you know, I'm the guardian of the money and how it's spent. I want to make sure that this is a good investment and we're going to get a return. So these are the worldviews. These are the things that they believe. And these are the things that you have to be sensitive to when you're entering projects with these people. Next is framing. So if you're presenting to one of these individuals in the room, how might you frame that same project to them? For a creative director, you might say, In this presentation, we'll share the big ideas and what the project will look like. Versus the CFO, you might say, we're going to present to you how this is going to earn money and what it might cost. Same project, different framing. Communication, what language are you going to use for these two different people? For creative people, you might talk about aesthetic, messaging, audience. Versus the CFO, you might be talking about what is the cost, the investment, the ROI, the strategy, KPIs, competitor analysis, the risk. These are the jargon and the language that you're going to use so you can speak to each of them so they care. And then lastly, when you're setting expectations, for the creative director, usually creative people, they want to be in the loop. So you might say, you know, when you work with our team, we're going to keep you involved with every major decision that we have to make. Versus the CFO, all they care is, will it get done on time, on schedule, and on budget? So you might present it that way. The project's going to be an investment of $35K and net you an additional $100K in revenue. So these are the expectations that you might set for them so that they can hear you, so that they can care about the project. So if we go back to that diagram, when we're all looking at the same project, it's okay that we all have different viewpoints and different ways of looking at things, but it's really important that you understand who these people are, respect their worldview, and communicate to them in a way that they can hear, understand, and care. So those are the 4 points again. Just understand the worldview, change how you frame the project for each of them and communicate to them, and then clearly set expectations so that you're addressing their objections and the things that they care about. And that's it.
Awesome, Matthew. Thank you so much. I think everyone have presented quite a different perspective in terms of like how you use collaborative design in your day-to-day, you know, design process, even with your team, with client, with, you know, stakeholders and things like that. So I do have a couple of questions that I think in some way it probably already have answered throughout your presentation, but I'm really curious to ask from you, Eli, Elise, and Matthew, what are some of the key components that really help your team or your client build a smooth design process aside from the communication aspect? We obviously need to definitely be in the same page and make sure that everyone understands the expectation from each other and communicate those properly. But do you think that there is another key components that really help, okay, we need to implement X, Y, and Z to make sure that this process, excuse me, this process and this project will be smoothly going through?
I mean, I guess I'll jump in. So, I mean, there's not one like easy answer because every scenario is different. I mean, but if you look at every enterprise or every team, they all have kind of similar issues. What I've seen is like, look, you have to have some type of framework, a backbone, right? And that speaks to process as well. I mean, my team, what we use is double diamond framework, right? And then whenever we have issues and we don't understand where we're at, we've been developing a playbook. You know, Atlassian has something very similar. We're like, you know, it's a go-to, not from just a design perspective, but every person in the organization can go to and really learn. So really just understanding how to develop that and engage that and encourage people to like participate in that. But honestly, just, you know, being comfortable and being in a good culture and creating a culture that allows people to just raise their hand and talk about things, really.
That's awesome. Elise or Matthew, do you have anything to add?
I'll say, like, as a freelancer, something short that I'll say is with every client I have, I try to have regular check-ins. And I think that's extremely important. And I always have something to share with them. Maybe perhaps in that meeting I have, these are some outstanding things I still need from you. But I also think what's really great about this time as well is I think not only do I get on a call, I always try to do video chat. I really push for that. Like, hey, let's hop on a video chat, because oftentimes, like, I've started with a new client that I've never met in person, right? So the more we can feel like a human connection, the better. And I think that video chat is super helpful in making me feel like I am actually a team with these people that I've never really met. I was actually thinking the other day, wow, it'll be really weird to meet them in real life after this is over, because I've built this connection with them. So I think that, yeah, it's again really important, frequent check-ins and video to have human connection.
Awesome.
Can I
Matthew,
take
you're
one
good?
question?
Or do you have something? Oh,
Really
someone
quick,
said-
if anyone has questions, please use the Q&A pod and we'll try to use that method there.
Okay.
A couple in the chat too.
I think I got the one from the chat. So I have that queued in too. Thank you, Liz. All right. Okay, the next question that I have, this is really interesting because I thought about this question as I hear the three of you present your talk. Has there ever been like a time where implementing a collaborative design was nearly impossible, either with a team member or maybe even with a client? And if so, how did you overcome that?
Nothing's impossible.
Positivity.
No, I mean, I think you just have to be positive and like going into, this like kickoff meeting or like, if you have briefs, going into that and like really just having an open mind and really understanding where that problem is coming from, right? Just opening up the book from there, and then then you kind of go into logistics of like, oh, what team's gonna be allocated to do those type of this type of work, etc. But just trying to be open minded, and again at the same time be honest, building that trust and those partnerships, those champions on that other side, right? It just takes some time, but again, like just being open-minded. I think anything can really possibly be created, but again, there has to be some type of agreement, because sometimes, I call them suits. They come in and they think, oh, we can get this done in a week. It was like, no, there's like 6 months, but just being realistic with each other.
Mm-hmm. Elise, I'm curious, has this ever happened to you throughout your freelance experience with a client?
Never, no. Everything has been super smooth. No, just kidding.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
actually, when you talked about it, I was just thinking 2 days ago. My team that I'm working with, they're like, our stakeholders are the people doing Los Angeles family housing, and these people are in shelters every day, working 12 hours a day. Craziness, and we're trying to design a product for them and get user feedback right now. So it's really challenging to actually get them to sit down with us, right? So some of the stakeholders, what I've started to do is just give weekly reports. Here's what we did. If we can't meet again in person with video, here's what we did. Here's still what we're planning on doing the following week. Here's some outstanding things we still need from you here. I'll like say in bold, like here are some things that are preventing us from maybe moving forward at this point. So I just at least try to have a check-in with them regardless, so that there's a paper trail of where we're at and some of the challenges that we're having. And I try to do my best to say, here are some of the workarounds we're thinking about. What do you think? Or is there someone else that could replace this person we're supposed to talk to? Or do you have someone a second in command? So, it's trying to try to take as much solution, like try to do as many solutions as I can as well for them as well, because I know they're busy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let me see if there's any new questions on the chat. Matthew, do you have anything to add? If not,
No,
I can.
I think both of those were already covered. So
yeah, awesome. All right. So how about this? I'll ask this question and I'll let Matthew answer first. Okay. Through UX design, we already know about, the question, how might we, and that definitely kind of help us figuring out more innovative solution from asking and framing certain challenge with that question. Is there any other questions or approach that you think is also something that we can leverage around collaborative design? Have you tried any other questions, or what type of question do you typically like use when you have like a team meeting and when you have like a client meeting and trying to really solve a certain problem with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, and Eli talked about this earlier, about having very clear briefs. And whenever I work with a client and or the internal team, I have to make sure that the creative brief is crystal clear. And the things I need in there are, what is the goal of the project? What is the thing it needs to do? What is the outcome that we want? What is the context? Where will this be displayed? What format? What platform? Who are the users? What do they care about? Are there any brand guidelines? Parameters, creative parameters. What can this be? Of all the things that we need to work within, what is our sandbox that we need to play in? Are there rules here that we need to abide by? Are there things that visually it could be, and things it can't be, and asking questions like if somebody were to use a very big word that is left for interpretation, like, oh, we just want it to be minimal and clean. Well, what does minimal and clean look like to you, client or stakeholder? Let's define that, and digging deep until I have very clear examples of what that is, so that after 3 weeks or a month or however long we're working on it, it's not a surprise where we arrive at the end. So we're keeping things quite efficient and lean and just running super clean. So goal, context, parameters. And then once I have all those things, I just make sure that I send it off to the client or the stakeholders, say, hey, here's our Bible, here's our North Star. Everything we make is going to be based off of that. And everything my team is going to make is based off of that. So we always reference that as a clear document. So whenever we're doing work along the way, there's less room for user error of false interpretations of something, because it's crystal clear and we've defined it and did the hard work up front by asking the hard questions and clarifying.
Yeah. I feel like that particular, 3 items that you mentioned is often something that people overlook, especially if you are an aspiring designer and you just get super excited to do the actual work. Client contact you, and they give you all the creative freedom, and it's like, yes, I'll do it. Like, I'll have all these different ideas, and then you presented it to the client, and they're like, oh, I thought it was going to be slightly different. It's like, well, you never actually be in the same page, right? And you have to be very clear in making sure that, hey, from what you mentioned around the concept that you were looking for, it's clean, it's minimalistic, and whatever it is, here's how to define it. Is this what you're really looking for? They might have completely different idea of what they're talking about around minimalistic or simple and clean. So being in the same page, honestly, is the right thing to do before you even start on designing. So Matthew, thank you for sharing that one. Elise or Eli, anything you wanted to add?
Okay. Yeah, I can. You can always look at it from a product perspective as well. Like we tend to look at and continuously build and filter out our personas. In our industry, we have a really large persona base, very niche, be it transportation. But we ask ourselves, hey, are any of these personas looking or looking into or researching or developing or in the face of similar products that we're trying to achieve? Referencing some of that. That also goes into like jobs to be done, and the two different classifications there. Is it like a process-based or activities-driven type of jobs to be done? So just, similar questions to ask there in from a product perspective.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right. The next one that I have is, what are some tips that you can share for, young, new designers, or even like some student designers that we have here on the attendee? What should they really look for in terms of like start to implement this collaborative design process, whether with themselves as a freelancer or when they start, building their own studio or agency?
Like the kind of advice I wanted to give myself like 30 years ago.
Yes, totally. What would you give? What advice?
Again, like there's no magic formula, right? I think honestly, when I was like maturing in our community, I kept on asking questions. I didn't care who it was, if it was like a rock star and it was at an event, a conference, I'd wait in line, talk to that person, and try to get insight, and not stalk anybody, honestly, but just really try to get some insight and like just really understand process and ask people like the questions that you don't learn in school, right? Because you don't learn like finance and what happens when you're like a creative director. Again, like that evolution of a designer, you go from like being and looking at pixels, that even though we don't do pixels, we do percentages nowadays. But like it's like you become a head of something. It's like you're in Excel, right? So you kind of learn that, but it's about asking questions and just being transparent. Honestly, that's kind of like the advice I would give.
Anyone else wanted to add to that? Matthew, what would the advice you would give for the young you?
I'm not sure if I would want to taint my younger self, just because I feel like everything that I've done up until this point has been fantastic, and it's got me to where I am today. So I wouldn't change anything going back. But if I were to give advice to a young person today, I think the most important thing that I've learned is learn how to learn. And learning how to learn just means how to be resourceful and asking very clear questions. Because the thing is, we live in the beautiful age of the internet where all of the answers are already on the internet. And pretty much the last 20 years of me learning has been from the internet because I asked Google, how do you? And the problem is, I think a lot of people, they don't know how to ask good questions. They ask broad questions like, what is general advice that you would give me as a designer? To do what? What is the intent? Like, what is, so usually what I train people when they ask questions is, first ask yourself why you want to know the answer to that question. And then ask why again, and then ask why again. And by the third time, you'll probably get to the intent of what it is specifically that you're trying to acquire. So for instance, one of my employees last year, the year before, he's asked, you know, I want to learn how to be more valuable here at the company. Well, why do you want to learn that? Well, because, you know, I want to serve you guys better. Well, why do you want to know that? Well, because I want to get a higher title or earn more money. Ah, okay. You want to, so what are the things that you're doing now? And then what do you think you can do better? So we kept going down this rabbit hole of asking. And then finally he pretty much answered his own question. And if you can clarify your question, then the internet and the entire world, like Eli was saying, has all the answers for you. And you can learn anything regardless if you go to school or not. So I think learning how to learn is the most important thing that you can do to become a successful professional, whatever career you decide to go in.
Awesome. Elise, anything?
I just want to say I love that, what you just said, Matthew, because to me, I think I've thought a couple things. I'm thinking about specificity and how important that is. And Matthew was also talking about clarity. And something that I've learned as a designer is when I first started, I was afraid to ask certain questions. I was afraid to push for something I really believed in. And I realized I was afraid to do it because maybe I didn't have a good enough explanation, right? Oh, I like this button moved here and this is, and I have it all stored in my head, but I'm not communicating it clearly enough. And so I've found that continuously asking myself why, prepping for my client meetings, really getting a grasp for what I'm pushing for and the reason why, and not to benefit me, but to both benefit the users as well as them, right? So that's what I really try to push also for students is understanding that strategy a little bit more comes with being very clear, being very specific, not talking in broad terms. And like Matthew said, I tell people who are trying to learn design, don't like go Google and like how to be a UX designer and think you're gonna get, you know, the answer. Take it in phases, take it in steps. And when you're unclear, how do I create an accessible button? I'm gonna just look that up right now as I'm doing it in that moment. That's how you're gonna retain information. You get high level of understanding, but then go into the details and start to retain information. I'm constantly learning every day on something new, but it's sometimes really minor, but it's starting to accumulate over time. So yeah, I'm just kind of piggybacking off of that.
Fantastic. We got a couple of questions from the audience. So let me just like wrap up my last question for you guys, and then we'll get through everyone's question. Okay, let's talk a little bit about tools. What are some effective tools for remote design collaboration that you definitely love? So that's my part one of the question. And I think someone else, I think Van was asking some questions around tools as well. So I'll let you answer that first question first, and I'll get to Van's question.
Zoom.
Yes, very obvious from Elise.
Yeah, so Van, I got you. So Miro, collaborative boards, pretty much like that's one that our team is on 24/7. And it's your question also to stakeholders. Like I try to like get in front of stakeholders and my team like all the time. We want them there day one. So yeah, Miro's a really big one. We're also on Microsoft Teams for virtual chat, and we also, I mean, we live in Slack as well. But someone on my team actually pointed out Slack has this really cool pen tool when you start to share screen. So it's really unique. So if you're starting a conversation, you can actually draw on it. I know some other tools have that similar thing, but I think those three are kind of like the everyday practice, really.
Yeah, for us, we use Notion a lot. We use it because we could use it as a database. We could it's so versatile. We could save so many things in there. We can have projects in there. We can write in there. We could do so many things in Notion. So that has taken over most of our project management tools. In terms of sharing information, we do a lot of video for the future. So we use Dropbox to work off of remotely, which is great. But then in terms of reviewing work, we use Frame.io. So that's a beautiful tool because you could play a video and then at any point you could just timestamp a comment, just like you would in other web apps where you could, you know, annotate certain things. So we use Frame.io for that, Slack to communicate, and that's pretty much it.
I agree with all of those. I feel like the chat, tool is definitely important because sometimes you just don't want to look at your inbox, to be honest, right? It's like, I cannot find anything in my inbox. So having a project management system was very helpful. There's obviously a ton of them out there, and many of them has the feature to do chat as well. And, you can drop in files and just put in like relevant information through a thread. So that was just simple and beautiful, and you can find everything easily. There's also another app for chat aside from Slack. If you don't want to pay for Slack and you want to host everything on your own, what we do here at Psycholovia is that we use Rocket Chat so that we can install it on our server. We just don't really want to tie it down to any other app. So if you're like us, go ahead and check out Rocket Chat. Dropbox is huge. I feel like Dropbox is pretty much how we pass around files and things like that. I feel like Google Drive is amazing too, if you love how their interface is. I just found that as a designer, I tend to lean towards something a lot more clean and easy to use. So Dropbox definitely wins my heart there. What is the other tool that I think everyone could also, check out? It definitely is. Dropbox Paper. I know that's fairly new. It's just like Google Docs, but it's so much easier to use, and it has such a rich what do you call that, guys? Like when you type in a link and a preview just showed up right away. I don't know what it's called. Is that rich text thing, link, whatever it's called? So if you just have any link that directly goes to YouTube, and it will actually shows the YouTube directly on Dropbox Paper, which I think like that's pretty sweet. I don't technically have to click on the link and go to that particular website. I can view everything in one page. So that's cool. And honestly, we also use a lot of projects with Adobe XD. So whenever we have any projects, my team are not here in Chicago. So some of them are in Serbia, some of them are in Indonesia. So we use the collaborative, the co-edit feature that XD recently launched. And that was very helpful because then I can see all the changes that's happening. I can accept everything, and I'm staying up to date to whatever changes that we have from the client. So that's really neat. I don't think I have any other apps that I have in mind right now, but we can always come back to that. Someone also tell me Figma is awesome. So if you love Figma, that is fantastic. With everything that is going on around digital design, there's so many tools, right? There's Sketch, there's Adobe XD, there's InVision Studio. Is that even still around? I don't know. And there's Figma as well. So take your pick, whichever makes you feel comfortable to use and really like utilize how you work with your client and present the way you need it to be, then use that. And okay, what else do I have?
Really use XD.
What's that?
But also use XD.
Recommendation.
Great. One good thing about XD and some other design tools, just the way you can integrate, especially if your company or your team is using a design system, there's Zeppelin to also be able to share with others, and there's also Zero Height if you want to share externally, like say your principles, your mission statement from a design system perspective. So I mean, the integration that Adobe provides is really awesome.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'm going to answer, well, not me, I'm sorry. I'm just going to pass some of this question to our panelists. From Diamond Simpson, the viewpoints Matthew discussed earlier was that learn and understood through work or through real life first, and how else is real life and work beliefs interchangeable?
Ooh, deep. I like it.
Do you want me to repeat that question?
No, I get it. I've been
Okay.
pondering on that one. So, really, the terminology that I use today, worldview, framing, communication, expectations, these are things that it's taken me a long time to formalize those things, and a lot of it I've learned recently from taking the Alt MBA with Seth Godin. That was a fantastic program that I took at the beginning of this year. But really all this is empathy, and I think that word gets thrown around a lot, and I think a lot of us don't know what that means. And empathy really is just to understand somebody else's worldview, and that's it, and to accept that, not necessarily to change them, but to understand that. So we enter in life, work, and those things are so much like this. It's not there aren't two different things necessarily. Some people are very strict, but for me it's one and the same thing. I learn and live and breathe in both every single day. And where I learned a lot of these concepts really is working with other people and socializing with other people and understanding and giving space to others and communicating with others and listening to different viewpoints and accepting when somebody's challenging, and then learning how to mitigate that, how to deal with the sticky situations and bring it back down so that we could be productive. So these things, they're all interchangeable because they exist everywhere. We all enter in every single experience with our biases, and we just cannot wash that away from ourselves. It's our programming from the parents, our environment, everything that developed us to this point, and we hold all those biases no matter what. And but being aware of those things are the moments that could help you at least look at that, observe that, and then see what am I going to do with that. I know I'm coming into this meeting with a bias. I know I'm developing this app with a bias. So how might I look and engage other people in different perspectives so that we can have a bigger, broader, more diverse picture that's going to serve the right people?
Word. Absolutely.
So deep.
I always think about like who I am in one aspect of my life. Like we're not in boxes, right? We're fluid. We're, you know, we're constantly, when I learn something, you know, in my personal life, it reflects like my relationship with my fiance, and learning how to be a better communicator with him has helped me be a better communicator to my friends, to colleagues, to stakeholders. And so I think that we're always, which is great, because then if we're like kind of growing in one area, it's kind of like bringing everything else up, right? So, you know, gotta do a lot of this.
All right. I also have another question from Justin Ponin. I'm a student and I'm graduating with BFA in graphic design next year. For all speakers, do you have any advice for students who are about to graduate college? I know that's very broad, but take it.
I think we covered this one already, which is some advice for young people, but I don't know if anyone else wants to add.
Maybe what we can do. Oh, go ahead.
Is it in relation to like finding a job, or is it in relation to just overall just being a designer? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, hey, I'll give you this advice. I mean, not the job thing, but I think choosing what place you want to be at, like I definitely look at the places that, it doesn't matter what's on your resume. Just really, if you get into the door, really to talk to the folks, that team, and that culture allows you to be you. You know, and Matthew, you covered that earlier. You want to be there because that's the place that you're going to grow absolutely 100% and give it your all too.
My only advice is start getting experience. That's what really matters. And so go out there, find a nonprofit that you can help redesign their site. Just start getting some experience, start helping other people with design, learning from them, trying to get as much real life experience as possible.
And if I could add to that, like nowadays, when I look at resumes, it's like, we're not looking at the typical resume, like send me a PDF. I want to see like, you know, what do your ideas look like? You know, even if it's like going out, expressing yourself, and helping community out, like developing something that didn't exist. Like what's that, you know, what's your brain look like when you run wild, basically?
Yeah. And I can also add to that too. When you are trying to find a job, right, you are going to be with a lot of other people too. So try your best to stand out. And what can you do? Like, what can you do in terms of like making sure that you are unique enough to stand out among the crowd? For example, one of the designer that we hired a couple years ago, the main reason why he got that job, because he stood out. He was the only guy who sent me like a PDF of a magazine format of his resume. I mean, other applicants were just sending me this very bland PDF, no design at all. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But his just stand out too much. And I was like, I'm curious. It makes me really want to check him out even more. And I want to really understand, okay, why did you send me instead of like a simple resume? So I get to understand him better because he definitely stood out. So definitely think about what makes you unique and how can you really leverage that uniqueness to really show that you are different amongst the other designers or recent graduates. Okay.
I'll give you an example here. Like when I graduated college, my resume, you know what it was? I'm still into woodworking. I made like one of those like shipping container boxes, miniature, that, you know, something you can actually put in like a big mailbox. And inside of it was basically just a puppet of myself with my email address. That's it.
Neat. Oh man, there's so many things that you can do to be creative, to be honest, right? So lean into your strength. I know that we're already like past the time. So Liz, you let me know if I can still do a quick rapid fire question.
What I'm going to do for those who might have to keep the schedule, I'm going to do the raffle. And then what we'll do is we'll continue, if the speakers can stay on, we'll continue answering questions. So just let's pause for a second and it's my turn.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is I have a question for whoever can answer it first in the chat pod for the Creative Cloud. And then we're going to pick random names. I have a random name generator for the t-shirts. So the Creative Cloud, let's see here. The question is, this might be tough, but basically it's about XD. All right, so besides Photoshop and Illustrator, what other platform, or I guess it's platform, can you import from? Or what other product can you import a file from? Put the answer. Oh, whoa, okay. Looks like Carlos was first. All right, Carlos Calazo. So you have won a year of Creative Cloud. Woo! And just use this email. So you all are definitely okay with emailing me back. You probably already got tons of email. Great, Carlos, congratulations. All right, so now we have, I'm gonna show you really quick I'm gonna show you my whole desktop here. So we have t-shirts. These are brand new. It says design is better together, and it has a little XD tab right there. So we are gonna give 3 of these away. So as soon as I click go, all your names are in here. The winner for the first one is Colleen. Good job. So Carlos, don't forget to email me. Colleen, don't forget to email me. All right, we've got 2 more. Ready? This is for the t-shirt. Another one. It's no way. Colton.
All right.
Oh my goodness. If it's the one above that, I'm gonna have to pick new software. Okay, ready, set, and third. It's gonna be Buluwatife. I hope I pronounced it right.
Fantastic. Congrats, everyone.
Get your
right.
shirt.
I love the clapping. That's pretty
So
awesome.
don't forget to email me and just let me know that you won. What does the t-shirt look like? Are you gonna pass on it? I'm sorry. But it looks like this. Its design is better together. And it has a little black or a gray tab on the bottom. But you'll be able to choose your own size for those. These are rare gifts that we get to give away at some of the events. And then just so you know, everyone who attended today is going to get an email, and you will get a link that will get you a packet of gifts from Adobe XD, and you'll be able to indicate where you want us to send this to. This is our thanks to you for attending today. I hope you all are safe and your families are happy. And then I'm going to let the team here, well, I say the team like we're ready to do something. But let's see here. Oh, you know what's funny? I wasn't sharing. Oh, that's so funny. I'm so sorry, you all. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's why they were asking. It's like, what does it look like?
Sorry. I'm still learning. Okay, so here is the design is better together. It's funny, I was using, this is the random generator I was using. So it made like all these wonderful things. Okay, but this is the t-shirt, design is better together. And this is the packet that all the attendees get today. So you'll get an email so that you can have this shipped directly to you. We definitely don't want to leave anyone out of Adobe XD swag. All right. All right. Now I get it. Okay. I forgot to push the share button.
Now I want one too. Nice swag.
I know. You all
swag.
Congrats, everyone.
They didn't tell me to share my screen. They didn't tell me I wasn't sharing. All right. So thank you all. And the folks who won, don't forget to email me. Now, so if you have any more questions, please go ahead and continue asking them. Ari, and I'm also going to drop in the link for the event tomorrow for Elise. She's going to be doing
join me.
Tips.
1 hour XD.
All right, I'm gonna go quickly through this questions that was asked and see which one makes the most sense for us to just kind of answer. So I think one of them is, where is it? Okay, are there any specific websites or apps that we students can use as a resource for inspiration or even keeping up to date with the design business industry?
Adobe has, you know, that blog. I mean, the design blog. I forgot, Liz, if you remember what it's called. The Adobe blog where it holds a bunch of content.
The 99U?
Yeah, well, it's a piece of 99U. I forgot the specific one.
Yeah, it's the Creative Connection.
Yeah.
We have a blog there. You can just like Google. Actually, if you just go to adobe.com, but you can also go to xd.adobe.com, and there are lots of links there to a lot of creative content. Was it also kind of some resources on learning and such? Is what everyone's listening or thinking of too? I would totally suggest going to behance.net/live. We go live very often as well. And there's tons of recording. As Elise said, also she's doing stuff online as well on YouTube. And the great resource is letsxd.com.
Awesome, okay.
Also, like, I mean, any illustrators out there, or even some UI stuff, Dribble is always great too, if you want to reference some stuff there.
Okay, I think one more question. So from Fabio Ferreira, how would you introduce the need and an importance of collaboration in a company that has built a system where each team is viewed as a service? I recently joined company X, and I'm trying to show the need for the design team to be involved in early discussion and not just be asked to tidy up. Could you share your thoughts on that?
Is that me or?
Whoever wants to answer it.
Well, look, you know, from past experiences, it's going to take some time to make that culture change, to be honest. You know, I'm not sure how involved you are with with the organization and the process. You got to find those champions and start kind of educating and helping them understand where you're coming from to really champion on the other side, and they kind of like continue that participation. Change will come. I mean, you just have to find partners in crime to kind of make that happen and evolve it. And then, you know, easy wins from here and there. You know, if you want to implement something new, a different style process, those easy wins and how those people see those easy wins, they'll want to come over to that.
I think that you have to first understand and get a gist of that company and the stakeholders there, because sometimes people don't have the ears and they never will. And therefore you can't do much. But otherwise, I have heard some people that I've interviewed who've tried to do this, they've shown examples and case studies of companies that are very design mature and shown how they've really surpassed others within their same industry and shown, oh, okay, these are the reasons why, right? And this is the amount of money they made, right? When they start to think about putting the users first. And then you can say the journey or how these design mature companies like the Airbnbs and Spotifys of the world, this is how they're doing that. They're bringing user insights up front, and you show that process. So I think if you, again, start talking about money, you start thinking about talking these big names, look what these guys are doing, don't you want to be like that? That could also help. But if they're not listening at that point and they're like, you know, sometimes you kind of have to let it go and find another company that is a bit more design mature already, or at least have the ears for it.
That was going to be my first response. At first, I was just pack your bags and go.
Well, I think like so many designers have been like, we've gone through that gamut, right? Time and time again. And it's like, ooh, how many times am I going to battle that out, especially as a new designer? That's very, very, very challenging.
Absolutely.
All right, so another one that I see here, how much do you care about your time on life with long-term goals on your job / business? What I mean is how much you sacrifice right now to pursue your personal goals like hobbies or in inquietude for new things.
Anyone want to take this one first? I can jump. I mean, hey, I have 2 kids, a lovely wife. She hates me sometimes because, like, you know, my passion for my career, she's in the medical field right now. You know, hey, sometimes you got to make sacrifices. And at the end of the day, you know, if you're in a couple, in a relationship, etc., even single, like you just, you know, you have to do you. But at the same time, if you're involved with someone and have, you know, obligations, you got to understand what those obligations are. So, you know, if it's a matter of like you having to stay up late and accomplish something, then, you know, that's what you got to do. But, you know, it's a balance basically on both sides. Just depends on where you're coming from, honestly. But for me, on my perspective, it's like I just do a lot of late nights because, you know, design or just making strategy or anything like that, it takes time.
Yeah, I actually agree with that one. And Eli, you brought up a really good point, and especially as parents, right? Whether you work with a bigger company or you're a freelancer or maybe have your own business, when you have kids, it's so many things to juggle. There's just so many things. And with the COVID-19 situation, now I also have to think about like homeschooling. So that's just another level to add on top of already busy schedule. And what about me time, right? So I think you always have to ask yourself, what do you really want in life? And always communicate that if you already have a spouse or are you in a relationship or are you with family and things like that, communicate that properly. And also think about, okay, is there like certain thing do I really want to accomplish on my own life within a certain type of parameters or maybe like certain type of timeline? What are those really look like for you? And stay true to who you really are and what do you really want to do in your life, because honestly, life is so short sometimes, and you might as well just like pursue your own dreams, figuring out if you can't find that opportunity you want from a company, build it yourself, because I feel like you have an amazing skill. You definitely are truly unique. You just need to realize what they are and really leverage your strength and lean into your, your strength. And forget about other weaknesses that you have. Everybody have their own weaknesses. And if I want to be candid with you all, I'm a designer who actually don't know how to draw. So everyone who knows how to draw, I'm honestly like very, very envious of that particular skill, but I'm definitely leaning into my own strength and making sure that if I can't really design, I cannot really draw, how can I leverage design thinking? How can I really like utilize my strength around design and communicating those properly to clients? I can hire others, but obviously what are those for you, right? Find out about that one and always connect with other people as well to help support your journey.
I'll just say, like, as a freelancer, I get an influx of work sometimes, and then it's not so much work, right? And so at times where there's a lot going on, like right now, it's like, oh, I'm not working out anymore. I'm not cooking my healthy meals. There's some sacrifices, but I just feel like I'm riding a wave. I go, this will pass. It's okay. If I'm not going to work out for 3 weeks, that's okay. And I'll come back to it. I'll come back to my hobbies and they'll be there. And I think that I see like work and hobbies and stuff as seasons. I'm not like doing something every single day. Always, I'm not playing volleyball every single day. I'm like, you know, summer I play volleyball, and then in winter I do snowboarding. Like I just see things as seasons, and work loads as seasons. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna write it, I'm gonna enjoy it, and then it'll be over, and then I'll enjoy the next thing that comes up.
Yeah,
All
I think
right.
those are all great answers. The only thing I'll add to that is I just self-check myself all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what do I want? Do I really want that? Is what I'm doing right now working towards that thing? Should I be doing that? And sometimes the answer is, no, I don't really want to do that. I'd rather be lazy and play video games, and that's okay. Other times it's like, dude, I've been playing 10 hours of video games. I should really get to that video I should be editing, right? And it's just always that. It's just an internal dialogue that I have with myself every single day to make sure that what I'm doing is fulfilling me at that moment. And that's how I operate.
Awesome. All right, I'm just gonna close this with a quick rapid fire questions for everyone. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Talking.
Texting.
Polka dots or stripes?
Stripes.
Polka dots.
Polka dots, I guess. Either.
Okay, dog person or cat person?
Can you do both?
Sure.
I'm a rat
Totally.
person.
Everybody's like, dogs. Come here, Bubba. Come here.
Invincibility or super strength?
Super strength.
Strength,
hard.
probably.
Mm.
Yeah.
I want to fly. I mean,
I know, right? It's not on your option list. All right, cake or pie?
Cake.
cake.
What's for dinner?
Pie.
Pie. Pie for dinner. Okay, that's good.
Barbecue.
Bye.
Anything barbecue.
Nice. All right. Pastel colors or neon colors?
Pastels.
Neon.
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 Yeah.
I'm originally
All right.
from Miami, so hey, come on.
All right, Eli, we'll let you go on this one. Climb a mountain or jump from a plane?
Jump from a plane.
Mountain.
Climb a mountain.
Climb a mountain for me too. All right, honestly, that is all I have. Thank you so much. Our speakers, fantastic discussion.
I agree.
Liz, thank you so much for giving away all this amazing swag and, you know, helping put this together as well. And for all of the attendees who, you know, staying awake in the middle of the night or just woke up to make sure that you can catch up on our conversation. Thank you so much for joining
Tiger
us.
King.
Yeah, and make sure you guys attend with Alize tomorrow. I dropped you the link in there, but I'm going to follow up with an email this evening, so it should be in your inbox when you wake up in the morning. But yes, everyone, again, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you all for attending tonight. I'm going to stop the recording.
Bye.
We'll see you next
Bye.
time.